Next, the FIFA World Cup wraps up on Sunday with that highly anticipated final showdown between France and Croatia. Russia will say goodbye to the hundreds of thousands of football fans who came from all over the world to support their teams on the pitch. For an entire month during the tournament, the country put its best foot forward. So how has this major sporting event reframed Russia in the eyes of international observers? And just how significant is the soft power of sport? Well, for today's Perspective interview, I'm joined on set by Carole Gomez, Research Fellow at IRIS, the French Institute for International and Strategic Affairs. She specialises in the political and diplomatic impact of sport. Carole, thank you so much for being here with us on Live from Paris. Firstly, can you please explain what sports diplomacy is and how sport can further a country's international influence?
Okay, so sports diplomacy is a way for a state, for example, to use sport as a tool for diplomacy and to increase its image on the world stage. So it will use sport, football, rugby, etc., in order to give a very good image of his country, of his dynamism on the world stage, and especially by welcoming event or for having good results on several things.
Well, let's focus on Russia as the host of this year's World Cup. What a difference 4 years makes. At the Winter Olympics in Sochi, we had the Crimea crisis, the conflict with Ukraine, and then a state-sponsored doping scandal. And more recently, accusations of Russian meddling in the US presidential election, and then the poisoning of a former Russian spy and his daughter in the UK earlier this year. So how has Russia used the event, the World Cup, to its advantage on the world stage?
Actually, it's quite important to think about this World Cup in a very long way, because Russian diplomacy, sports diplomacy, began at the beginning of the century. So it was something like the final stage for Russia in order to give a better image. The Sochi Olympics and Paralympics were quite good, but it was, of course, difficult with the Crimea situation, but also with the doping situation, and it was very negative on several points. But on this World Cup, it's of course too early in order to make some statement, but it was a quite good organization, and all the reports that we have on Russia were quite good. So it's a good thing for Russia in order to just have a very good image and say that, okay, so Russia is not what you think, and it's not just doping or corruption or organized crime. It's also welcoming people and try to give a better image of the country.
And what happens after the teams and fans go home? How long could the World Cup afterglow, if you like, last before coverage of Russia once again focuses on those things that you just spoke about, on controversies?
Yeah, actually, it's quite difficult in order to understand very totally the event, but it will be interesting to follow the Russia during the following months and during the next months. And there is a very important event in November in Russia in order to say, okay, so what will be the next Russian sports diplomacy in the few years? So it will be important to try to think about this event and say, okay, so we will follow this line, or we will change totally the way that we want to have a sports diplomacy.
And what do you think of the theory that some countries, such as Qatar, Brazil, China and Russia, have used the World Cup, all the Olympics, to divert attention from known human rights abuses?
Yeah, actually, it's for some reason it's quite true. But actually, when you think about sports diplomacy, it's always in a way to have a better image on the world stage. So it will just try to hide some economic reason, some human rights issues, or some political reason. So on this case, it was about human rights, but on other case, it was about other things, which is not a very good thing on the international space.
Now, using the soft power of sport is nothing new. There's always been a connection between sports and politics. I believe at it goes back centuries. Is
Yes.
this true?
Yeah, actually, it was when you think about the antique Olympics, it was also a very strong link between sports and politics, because there is something like the city can make war between each other during the Olympics. So when you think about the myth of apoliticism of sport, it's just still very active, but it's still not accurate, because we think that sports and politics are really linked, and despite all the message that we can see, and president of FIFA, of president of IOC say no, of course, sports and politics don't mix.
Yes. They don't get involved with one
but
another.
actually, the facts are right, are here, and we can think that it's just a way for this federation or for these people to increase their importance on the world stage, because some federation or some president of federation are even more powerful than some countries, for example.
So mega sporting events like the Olympics have always doubled up as a political stage for as long as we can remember.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, closer to home now, the 2024 Summer Olympics will be held right here in Paris. How will that help France's image, which has obviously taken a blow in recent years due to a string of terror attacks? What do you think could happen there?
It could be a good way in order to say that France will be here and will be ready to welcome all the people and to welcome the world in this city and this country, because many sports will take place all around France, in Brittany, in Marseille also, etc. So it will give very positive messages in order to bring back the tourists here, but also to show dynamism, to show new innovation in economics, in sports, etc., etc. So the Olympics and Paralympics will be extremely important, but the main thing it will be to prepare very seriously them in order to to just make it very efficient when it will happen.
Okay, well, they've still got a few more years to prepare. Yeah. Carole Gomez from the IRIS, thank you so much for being here. Once again, Carole is a research fellow at the French Institute for International and Strategic Affairs, specialising in sports diplomacy. Thank you again.
Thank you.